Greetings, I'm back, yay! I bet you thought that I was never coming back. Today I am going to actually answer a question from Hyperion from the Unnamed Path to start things off, and that will get us going on our topic for the day. So he actually sent me an audio clip of his question, so here it is.
Hi Ariel, this is Hyperion from the Unnamed Path podcast at unnamedpath.com, and I have a question for you. I'm wondering what your advice is for people out there who have learned and studied magical traditions primarily out of books, who feel that they've run up against a sort of wall where they can't seem to learn anything else and all the books seem to regurgitate and repeat the same information. Yet they feel that there's more out there for them, that they can go deeper with their spirituality. What do you suggest they do? Where do you think they can go to find more information in order to deepen their spirituality and satisfy their thirst for more information, because they know there has to be something else out there? I'm curious to hear what your perspective is on that. Thanks.
Okay, that's an excellent question, and thank you for sending that to me, Hyperion. And I love your podcast, by the way. It's beautifully done, and it's definitely worthwhile listening for everybody who's interested. Anyway, to answer your question, from my perspective, one of the issues that is happening in our culture, and especially within the spiritual culture that we have, is that we have things backwards. We think that what we need is to go out and find new things, get new things, and we need more, because why? We're coming from a poverty mentality, meaning I am not enough, and therefore I have to look outside of myself to go find something else that doesn't exist within me that I can get so that I can be good enough, so that I can get more perfect, that I can get to heaven, that I can become enlightened, that I can become successful, that I can have happiness, that I can find a perfect mate, that I can do, be, or have whatever those things are that I have somehow in my mind set myself up to believe that if my life can look like this particular picture, that everything will be good. So that's what we've done with spirituality, and that's what we've done with the craft. We've said, well, these people over here don't give me what I need, so therefore let me try to find this book. Let me try to find this group. Let me try to find this podcast. Let me try to go out and find more things, get more things, because if I can collect enough stuff, whether it be physical stuff or psychological stuff, then maybe I will be happy. And I think that that's the bottom line, is what we're searching for is we're searching for a level of, and call it what you want, we're searching for some level of peace, some level of happiness, some level of contentment that we have not yet experienced, or we may have experienced fleetingly, and we're trying to get back to that. And what we teach, and what Eli was very clear about, is that nothing outside of you can ever even come close to giving you that which already resides within you. He, in one of his lessons, calls it the genie in the bottle. There's a genius, and that's what he calls the genie in the bottle. The genius that lives within us is kind of corked up. It's corked up deep within us, and it needs to be massaged. You know, like you have to rub the bottle? You need to massage that out of you because it's so stuck. And one of the reasons I think that the genius within us is so stuck is because of the very fact that we are looking to the wrong place to find it. And the more, remember, what you focus on expands. The mind is very, very powerful. This is the metaphysics of the craft as we teach it and as I understand it. That the mind is so powerful that what we focus on is what expands, and what expands within our consciousness then expands within our reality. Now, if we're looking outside of ourselves to find whatever it is that we think will make us happy, it's immediately setting us up to be in a position of high stress, because no matter what you do, there's always the bottom line thought there that within me is not good enough. There's that I have to look outside of myself to find that thing which will make me happy. And therefore, since it's not within me, the power is outside of me. And it's a type of powerless that's not the same kind of powerless that they talk about in AA, which is actually a very empowering type of powerlessness. What I'm talking about when I say powerlessness is a misjudgment, a misguidance of what power really is. And I have a whole podcast on finding the power, and I think it's a good one for if I don't say so myself. I think it's a good one for discussing this, because what's happening is, well, let's take this election, because I mean, if this happens to stay online for years and years, and this is an old podcast, right now we've got this big election coming up, and I don't care who, and if you're not in the middle of the United States, I'm sure you understand what we're going through over here. Regardless of what side you're on, regardless of what side of the coin you're on, it's stress. It's a very, very stressful place to be. And I notice that the more people focus on it, the more people talk about it, the angrier people get. And the angrier they get, the more they focus on it, the more they talk about it, and the more divided the country gets. Why is that? Because the mind is very powerful. And don't kid yourself. The politicians in this particular case are the ones that want to get everybody angry, because they want to have that schism happen, because that way maybe you'll come to their side, you know? But the same kind of politics happens within us that says, there's a voice within us that says, you're not good enough, you have to go over there. And then as soon as you hear that voice within, oh, I'm not good enough, I got to go over there, it sets you up. It's a trap. It sets you up for saying, no matter what I do, outside of me, that thing has the power to make me or break me. And you know what's going to happen? Pretty soon you're going to get sick of that thing, or it's going to fall off its pedestal, or you're going to realize that it wasn't it. So then you're going to do what? Go on to the next thing. And then that's not going to be so interesting after a while, or it's going to fail you on some level. It's set up to fail you. So then what do? You go on to the next thing. And you know what? This can go on for lifetimes. Lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. But the good news is this. Truth, spiritual truth, magical truth, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, however you want to, whatever term you like to use, is simple. It's simple. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some complexities in the science of magic that are important to understand. Absolutely there are. And all those things are available in books. There's not one thing that is left secret anymore. You can find out all the mysteries of the Kabbalah in very, very good books. And I can, if you're interested in that, I can give you my suggested reading list of the easiest way to study the Kabbalah, if you're interested in the magical Kabbalah. There are excellent books on the intricacies of magical herbalism, all available at your local bookstore and or on Amazon.com. Very, very good ones. So the intricacies of the science of magic are already available. You don't have to look far. They're there, okay? But that's not what we're talking about today, because you ultimately don't even need any of that stuff. You can use it. It's valuable. I love it. But it's the finger pointing to the moon. Remember that story? If you've heard me talk, I've talked about it more than you probably want to hear, but I'll say it again. That the Buddhist monk was walking the dog, and there was a beautiful full moon, and he was like he wanted the dog to see how beautiful the full moon was, and so he kept pointing at the moon, and the dog kept barking and looking at the finger. And he said, no, look at the moon, look at the moon. So he pointed more forcefully at the moon, and the dog kept barking and looking at the finger, The dog didn't understand the concept of pointing, couldn't get that. And that's where we are trapped, in that a lot of these paths and these styles of spiritual discovery, we get so lost in the things, in the trappings, that we mistake the finger for the moon. And that's where we are. So my recommendation to anybody who's not on a path, or who is on a path and is not getting the fullness the full experience that they want, is to start looking at the moon. And I'm not talking literally at the moon, although that can be very helpful, especially if you're in the craft, to gaze on the face of the moon. But what I'm talking here is metaphorically the moon being the goal. And the goal is finding that genie in the bottle, finding that spirit that lives within. How do you do that? You meditate. I'm sorry. I know you wanted the next most important magical formula. You wanted the next big spell. You wanted the next herb. You wanted the next numerological equation. You wanted the magic box. But the magic box is within you. The magic box is within you. It's within all of us. There is not one person on this planet who is more special, more important, more enlightened, more fabulous than any other person. It's just not set up that way. We all are different in a lot of ways, but essentially we're also all the same. So if you want to have the same spiritual and magical power as whoever your heroes are, the only way to find that and to do that is to go deep within, and to, as we've spoken many times here before, allow what we call, in our jargon, the mental shield to come down. And that just simply means that the crazy running around from thing to thing, we all do it. I mean, we're all in there, running around from thing to thing, trying to find, seeking, pulling, tugging, all of that tension, all of that stress that the world has set up to seduce us into participating in, to momentarily suspend ourselves from that for 20 to 30 minutes every day, maybe twice a day if we're really committed, and to find that still small voice within us, and to find that peace by relaxing the body, relaxing the mind. And from there, you can take it one step further, which we always talk about, and that is into a practical magical application. Not only do we suggest to find peace, to find enlightenment, and to accept everything as it is, but then once we accept it as it is, we realize that we're in a position to have what it is be what we want it to be. But the danger there is that unless we're able to find a deep sense of peace and be totally accepting of the world as it is, as it presents itself to us, without needing to change any of it, we don't have the vantage point by which we can make an informed choice as to what we really want. Does that make sense? If we're operating out of frenzy, then our decisions are informed by the frenzy. But if we are making a choice out of a deep sense of connection to our oneness, then our decisions are informed by that oneness which is truth, that oneness which is what that mystical third, if you will, that Holy Spirit, that Shakti, that life force, that supreme intelligence that has the answer to every problem. No matter what. It knows what to do with this election. It knows what to do with the environment. It knows what to do with the economy. It knows what to do with the problem of teenage pregnancy and gang violence on our streets. It knows what to do with the war in Iraq. It knows what to do with the war in Afghanistan. It knows what to do, but it can't do anything unless we are willing to be the conduit through which this force of nature acts. So to the extent that we're running around trying to find power, that we're trying to find what the next big thing is, that we're trying to find how to be, quote, enlightened and running around. We're a product of the frenzy of the world that is the problem. But once we're able to relax and connect, it's very, very clear what our part is in the healing of the world. It comes in a flash. It's very clear. And you know, the secret of this is, the truth of this is, that this power doesn't give a shit whether you're, pardon my French, but it's just the way it comes out sometimes. It doesn't care whether you are a witch, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're atheist. All it cares is that you're willing to be open and receptive and a conduit for the healing of the world, because healing is natural. Healing is natural. Life is always, this is what the goddess is. It's always trying to bring forth new life. It's always trying to correct that which is ill. It's always trying to regenerate that which has died. That's just the way nature works. Nature is about life. So if we're serious about this stuff, that we're saying we want to be one with the goddess, and that we want to be a goddess religion, we want to be an earth religion, we want to be nature spirituality, then we have to understand that it's not just the byproduct of nature, it's the mind of nature that we're talking about. It's the spirit of the goddess. It's the intelligence of the goddess. And that intelligence is within every cell of our body. It's deep within our mind. It's in every blade of grass. It's in the DNA. It's in the entire cosmos. It's everything. All right? But we have the freedom to think in ways that are antithetical to nature, because we are free beings. That's what makes us very unique as human beings. If you ever study our teachings, we have a diagram called the ladder of life, and human beings are just a little bit above animals on the ladder of life. Now, that doesn't mean that we think we're better than animals, but it does mean that we have free choice. We're not bound by instinct. That's why we're here to take care of the earth. But because of the fact that we're not bound by instinct, and we're able to think on our own, and we're able to think thoughts on our own, then it's also the case that we are free to create in ways which are antithetical to that which the goddess thinks. And that's what we call modern civilized society, for the most part. Not in all cases, obviously, but that's where we get things like pollution and global warming. And I'm talking about man-made global warming. You know, I'm not talking about natural weather changes, which are part of the intelligence of the goddess. That's where we get things like war, and it's just part of the human condition that's happened for aeons. But the truth of the matter is that we are also able to choose to go deep within and to be educated by that very force itself. So you want to go out and find the best teacher in the world? I tell you, you've already got it. You've already got it. It's your connection to the supreme intelligence of the goddess. It's your connection to nature. It's the same intelligence that knows how to regenerate your body, that knows how to make that cut on your finger heal, right? And I'm not going to go into all of the reasons why things like that can go wrong right now. That will be a great podcast, but I don't have time for that right now. I love that topic, so if anybody wants to hear more about that, we can talk about that at length. But I hope that sort of addresses your question, Hyperion. I really do appreciate you sending that in. And I also have one more question that was sent in, and I want to address that before we end today. Okay, Amy emailed us, and she asks, where is her email? Hi, Ariel. I truly enjoy your podcast, and I'm so grateful that you provide such wise words to me and all your listeners. Well, thank you, Amy. I don't deserve your praise, but thank you so much. I do my best. Okay, I have a question. After listening to a podcast, I think it was probably in Secrets to More Effective Magic, You were discussing tips to help one manifest love in their lives. You said that once you get worked up during the spell casting, that you need to just forget you ever casted the spell, not talk to anyone about the spell, and create a kind of negative pole so that you can attract what you want. You also suggested that people should keep themselves busy by improving themselves, and eventually you'll get so into that you'll forget that you ever casted the spell. I'm curious what one does when they finally do meet someone that they're interested in at, say, a party, and get their contact information. Should that person actively try to cultivate a friendship, dating situation with this new person, or just let that person come over to them? Should you discourage yourself from thinking about the person a lot? I have heard, I believe in your podcast and from other sources, that you should do without doing and try not to impose your will on the final manifestation. Can you clarify that a little bit more for me? Oh, wonderful, Amy. Well, I think you did just answer your question. I loved the way that you stated that. Do without doing. I love do without doing. That's being in the world but not of it, is what that is. And this ties into what we're talking about today beautifully. What you should do, you should ask. You should go within and ask. You should ask the spirit within. Go into your silent meditative place and ask. What do I do? What is my best right action within this particular situation with, like, say, this person right now? And you'll hopefully, if you're meditating on a regular basis, you will get very clear. See, because of course you should be able to cultivate a relationship with someone. Of course you should be able to get contact information. Of course you should be able to go out on dates. I mean, you've got to do the so-called footwork. You can't just, it's like the people that do a money spell and expect a basket of money on their door, and they never send out their resume. But there's a difference between doing the footwork and doing the follow-up work and getting obsessive about a particular person. That's where we have to draw the line. Am I okay? Of course, I like this person, but if we can get to the point where it's like, well, let's take this one day at a time and let's just see what happens. Let's see how it unfolds. Let's see if we're as compatible as I think we might be. And we'll just take it one day at a time, and let's not rush into this. Let's not put the cart before the horse, and let's just see. Now, if I start obsessing about this person and I start catching myself trying to put them in a box of what I think I want my perfect mate to look like, that's when we're having some problems. That's when we get into trouble. But of course you should be able to go and have dates and have a good time. That's the whole idea of this stuff, is so that you can start having the life that you want. But I'm sure that if you're doing a perfect mate spell, part of what you desire is an easy, free-flowing, loving relationship, right? If you feel like you're bringing a lot of tension and anxiety about, is this the one, will they call, then obviously that's not what you want. And I'm not saying that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a good relationship for you, but it's time for you to take a step back and say, well, I'm going to work on myself again, because if I'm freaking out about whether they call me, or if I'm obsessing about what they're doing, or if I'm obsessing about, are we going to see each other tonight, and to the point where I'm getting tense and I'm not enjoying the relationship, well, that's antithetical again to what we just discussed, right? So the relationship, a good barometer is, how peaceful am I in my body? How relaxed can I remain when I think about this person? And if I'm all tensed up and anxious about, even if I'm calling that excitement, about an obsessive need for this relationship to move forward in a particular direction, well, then that doesn't necessarily mean that this person is wrong or that the relationship is wrong, but it's something definitely that I need to work on within myself. Does that make sense? So yes, you do need to get out there and date people. And no, you don't need to obsess over the relationship. And it's a wonderful, relationships, I once heard, are the best self-improvement seminar in town. Because relationships bring up everything that need to be looked at. I love that line that Sandra Ray used to always use, that love brings up everything unlike itself for the purpose of healing. Remember how we talked about the goddess is always trying to heal? The goddess is always trying to bring forth new life. Well, if there's anything within us that needs healing, we let love in our lives, and love is the great healer. It's going to bring it up. But remember, whatever's on the way up is on the way out. And as long as we don't act on it in an obsessive manner, if we don't act on it in a crazy manner and allow ourselves to get hypnotized back into our phobias, and just notice what it is, bring that into our meditations, should notice what's coming up and say, that's very interesting. This is where I'm always getting tripped up in relationships. Let's see if I do this differently this time. Let's see if I don't act on it in the same way. Let's see if I just take this relationship for one day rather than showing up with the U-Haul and expecting to move in tomorrow or whatever your thing happens to be. Does that make sense? Hopefully that answers your question. I hope to hear from you soon. Love and blessings always. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to hear from you soon. Don't forget to email us and visit our website at thedcw.org. Blessed be.